Hello everybody! Okay, what I want to talk about tonight is the 15-minute cities, although there's an awful lot to say on that subject, so I'm sure I will return to it, and how they are trying to spin it as like the best thing ever. And I mean, if you're against it, well, you're against green spaces, and you're against traffic jams, and you're against congestion, and you just must be crazy, because these things are just wonderful. So I actually posted on my Facebook page, and I got someone coming back at me saying, oh, this is misinformation, of course. And the person said, I work in environmental sustainability. Yeah, okay, well, you are part of the problem if you work in that. You are building our prison, and yes, you are being told by your employer what a wonderful thing you're doing for the environment, but you're obviously not thinking it through, as no one does. So anyway, she sent me to this article, which of course was a lot of nonsense, and it was not informative. It's called In Praise. Notice how it's kind of religious. This is not a factual article. It is it's in praise of the 15-minute city, the mundane planning theory, which is terrifying conspiracy theorists. You know, we're all nuts and off our heads because this is just the government or the local councils doing something nice to make our lives better. I mean, you know, they do that all the time, don't they? They're always making our lives better, you know, taxing us to death, letting us freeze in our homes, you know, creating wars that endanger our lives. Yeah, they really want what's best for us. This little twerp, Ollie Wainwright, he is an architect and he writes for The Guardian and he lives in California. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being an architect, but he's no expert in what's going on here, I can tell you. So he says the frightening prospect of greener, people-friendly streets and convenient amenities has set the online right and Tory MPs into a tailspin. You see, guys, nothing to worry about. It's going to be greener and people-friendly. And the council's going to organise this for you. Well, I mean, basically anything the council organises will be the biggest cock-up ever known to man. So, you know, we have that to look forward to. That's one thing. As John Waters says, the one problem the globalists have is they have to use local councils and local governments to kind of implement these things. And, you know, they cock everything up. So now I did go on Twitter and responded to him. I'll read you some of my tweets. This is one of my, accounts. This is actually supposed to be a Twitter account where I never talk about politics, but I've already broken that rule, as I always do. So he says, oh, sorry, what was this? He was untangling the myths, right? That was the byline for this article, that he was untangling the myths around these marvellous 15-minute cities, to which I said to him, you didn't untangle anything. You just wrote a snarky lot of fantastical nonsense about these magical oases of green pleasure, glorious amenities and fine dining that are miraculously going to manifest everywhere across the UK. I said, you must be as stupid as King Canute. Well, I want to know is, if my green little 15-minute area of pleasure, will it have the sea near me? Can they bring the sea to me, or a lake, or a river? Because I don't live anywhere near those things. So, you know, all areas are not equal. I mean, there are some areas in every country and in every city that are crummy and grotty. And you can walk for 15 minutes, you can walk for another 15, you can walk for an hour, and you'll still be in a crummy, grotty area. They're not going to, they make it sound like it's possible to transform any area, no matter how much of a concrete jungle it is, no matter how, whatever it is, they can transform it into this lush and green and wonderful place that has great restaurants and amenities and places people want to go. How are you going to do that? This is not public sector driven or free market driven at all, because if there was a demand, there would already be these facilities within every 15 minutes. But obviously there isn't enough demand in every 15-minute zone to make it worthwhile for businesses to set up. So when they say we're going to have all these things, what amenities are they actually even talking about? Are they talking about a doctor? Because right now in the town where I live, which is larger than 15-minute zone, they can't get enough doctors for the entire town. They can't get enough dentists for the entire town. How on earth are they going to have enough doctors, dentists and amenities within a little 15-minute segment? They can't even get it right for a whole town. So who's going to organise that every 15 minutes? And what are they going to do? A lot of areas are housing. So where they're going to clear a space to have everything that you might want. And who's going to decide for me what I need in 15 minutes? That's communism, you see. They're going to decide that everything you need is in 15 minutes. How do they know what you need? Everyone is different. We're a diverse bunch of people with different needs, preferences, likes and wants. So that's the first thing I said to him. I also said, if it's such an amazing idea, wouldn't people embrace it organically? No, it's going to be enforced with ubiquitous ANPR and fines. Sounds more about control and social engineering, which is totally undemocratic and incredibly authoritarian. If it's all this utopia of lovely, relaxing green spaces and having everything we need at our fingertips, why do they have to enforce it? You will be penalized and menaced with letters threatening court action if you don't pay the fines, which will be punitive. This is a punishment. But it was a good thing you don't need all this enforcement, do you? And another thing is, everywhere in the UK is pretty samey. You know, you go to any high street, you're going to have your Costa, your Starbucks, your charity shops. The bigger ones might have a Marks and Spencer food. You know your generic things that you get in every single town. Well, what, they're going to replicate that on a 15-minute basis? There isn't enough demand for businesses to organically want to set up in those particular zones, or they would have already. And as far as the state supplying them, does that mean they're going to supply a gym for a golf course? Because I have to go quite a long way for a tennis court. I can't afford to play tennis right now, but I would like to. But I've got to go a long way. My local town doesn't have a tennis courts. Never mind within 15 minutes. Do you think they'll build me some tennis courts within 15 minutes so I can walk there? Of course they won't. I mean, for example, there's a gym with a swimming pool within a 15 walk from me. But that gym has the pool, great. I like that. But it's also got a gym area. There's a place where you can do weights. There's a place where you can do aerobics. I hate those things. I would rather, if I had the money, pay to go to the David Lloyd Club, which is about 15 or drive away, and you have to drive because there's no bus that goes there. But I'd rather go there where they've got tennis courts and a swimming pool. But under their plan, I can't, because I'd only be able to go maybe twice a week, which wouldn't be worth me paying, because I'd want to go at least 4 times a week. But I wouldn't be able to, because I've got to use the gym that I don't like near me. And why would I want to be forced to use a hairdresser just because it's near me? I might prefer the haircut I get at a further. You know, there's this choice thing. You know, there are restaurants and places to eat that I can walk. I happen not to like them. So I want to make a choice to go where. What you see, it's just all about containment. It's not about choice. It's about punishment. I don't know who those people are, by the way. I don't follow them. And then I said, this is the crux. Who decides what I need in my 15-minute radius? And how does the local government know what I want and need? This is communism telling you how to live your life. And someone else said here, the having to apply for permits to leave your area and being fined for leaving your area is the worry. It's not the having all you'll need in 15 minutes. That's a convenience thing. But we're looking at an enforcement thing. There's some stupid snarky comment from some other person who's obviously in favor of this. And then I said, people like Ollie Wainwright will probably ensure that your 15-minute city has a convenient assisted suicide center, you know, just in case you get a little depressed and want to be offed by the government for their convenience. I just can't stand any of this garbage. If you go back here to this dumb article, you know, it's all so heavily sarcastic. This guy thinks he's such a genius. He says it's liberty from the rush hour commute. Yeah, and you won't have to be stuck in traffic jams or crawl along clogged ring roads and trawl the streets in search of a parking spot. People are doing that because they have to work. Are you telling us this is a work from home scheme as well? Because that's got nothing to do really with 15-minute cities and your convenience. They're saying you don't have to go in traffic ever. Yeah. So what? You're going to work from home. All right. Who's going to arrange that? You know, I have so many friends who work in like, for example, I've got a friend who does gigs. She's a singer. So she's got a van or a car. She can't lug her amps, her mic, all her equipment and her lights around with her on the train or a bus. She must put them in her car, and she drives to various gigs all over the Midlands. How is she going to run a business like that? For example, there's other examples, all sorts of different. I mean, you've got accountants that visit people in person, you've got hairdressers, nail people, therapists of all sorts. It's an absolute nonsense. They're going to have to give so many different exemptions for different things. And it's important to get out of your environment. Not all of us live in Belgravia or Knightsbridge. We like to get away. The 15 minutes where me and I live might be shite. And we want to get away from that. And they'll say, oh, well, you can still catch the train and you can still use the bus. The train is very expensive in England. Very expensive. And buses don't necessarily go in the direction you want to go. They're very inconvenient when it's very cold, or if you've got, you got to buy a flat screen TV and come home on the bus. Or, for example, when you're vegan, you need a lot of vegetables to eat. And, schlep those on a bus. It's convenient to go in your car. And also, I want to buy organic vegetables, preferably if they are available. So I don't want to have to shop at the crummy shops down the road that sell junk food. I don't know. This makes me so angry. And I don't know what this has got. They're clogged ring roads and whatever because the country is overpopulated, because we've got so many people and they're all crammed into the southeast and the Midlands rather than being spread out throughout the country as well. And, will there necessarily be the availability of trains, buses and everything if they do this? Then he goes on about some Conservative MP for South Yorkshire who launched a plucky tirade against the concept of convenient walkable neighbourhoods. Like I say, where is the grassroots demand for this? When you ask people in the street, if you're not YouGov, of course, if you ask people, what are you concerned about in Britain? People are concerned primary cost of living, the massive cost of heating bills, cost of things in the supermarket, available of tomatoes, or, being told, no, go and eat a bloody turnip, which they don't have. Turnips. It's quite hard to get them. I like them in a minestrone. They don't have turnips that often anyway. If any of you don't know, you're told by some silly woman who thinks she's, the, I don't know, what do you call it? The Hindenburg version of Marie Antoinette, who told people there's a shortage of non-seasonal vegetables, and told them to go and eat turnips because there are lots of those. This is the mentality of our government. But anyway, and he goes on about this. Sorry, I lost my track. I was going to say something. By the way, green cities, weren't they cutting down all the trees in Sheffield because of 5G? I just cannot stand their logic, it really is frustrating. I was going to say something else which I've forgotten. Yes, as you were saying, people are concerned about unfettered illegal immigration. People are concerned about huge amount of money being wasted on provoking World War III. People are concerned about corruption in the government. People are concerned about Brexit. People are concerned of all things. Nowhere on this list did people say, I want everything within 15 minutes because I've got no desire to leave my area and I don't really want to use my car. I'd much prefer to walk and use a bike. No one's saying that. No, there's no grassroots demand for this. This is being foisted from above, and then you're being told it's so good for you. You should want it. And if you don't want it, you must be cuckoo. No one wants this. No one asked for this. People also like to choose which schools their children are going to on the basis of maybe what religious schools, quality of education, and that often involves driving your children. A lot of children also have special needs, autistic children. They need to be driven to schools that are a long distance away, and they don't necessarily want vulnerable children going on the bus. There are so many reasons. People have set their lives up around the current town planning. To throw that all over out the window, and to take towns which are in many cases historic medieval towns, hundreds of years old, carve them up into zones. It's, especially in the UK, these are not modern cities. They're cities that have grown up over centuries. And now we're going to carve them up and can't say who can go where and why. And people have set their lives up, their businesses up, their children's activities up. People have set their lives up with the mentality that, yes, maybe they can use a bus and train sometimes, but they also have the ability to use their cars. So I feel this whole thing, it's trying to reinvent the wheel. It's not going to work. It's not practicable. It's not practical. There's going to be such a deluge of permits that have to be given for various businesses because there will be so many legitimate reasons that people will have that they need to cross these inner boundaries, that they'll be having to give out all sorts of permits. There'll be corruption, of course, because certain people will be paying for these permits. It's going to be more than these councils can possibly handle, incredibly costly. Do you really think people want resources allocated to this nonsense? And like I say, who pays to put facilities in every 15-minute zone? That's an awful lot more facilities. We're always hearing they don't have money for libraries, they don't have money for youth centres, they don't have money for anything, but suddenly they're going to find enough money to create zones where people have all the amenities they need. And they can't force private businesses to open hairdressers and whatever other facilities there are, gyms in these zones, if they're not going to be profitable. So this is a non-starter. It's a ridiculous idea. It's an example that the powers that should not be haven't a clue what's going on at a grassroots level, and that they are in an idealistic, well, I wouldn't call it a utopia, because it certainly isn't that. But this is a nonsense. This whole thing is an utter nonsense. And sort of people who write these articles clearly do not have logical, analytical minds. They can't think things through, and therefore they have to demonize and basically write a sarcastic, snarky little tirade of nonsense, which takes the argument no further but distracts from the argument. Yeah, so anyway, I mean, this whole 15-minute city just winds me up because, again, it's good for you. You know, like other things that work good for us, like lockdown and everything. It's good for you. It's for your best. Don't ask questions or you some sort of conspiracy theorist or, well, you know, you'll have to convince me that's an insult before I'll take it as one. Much worse things that can be said. That's not an insult at all. And then it says here, he says, the 15-minute principle suggests, it just suggests, right? So if it's just suggesting, why their camera is going up to look at us and see our number plates and send us fines, that's not suggesting. It's enforcement. It's communism. It suggests that you should have your daily needs for work, food, healthcare, education, culture, and leisure, all within 15 minutes. Okay, my needs for healthcare. Would I be able to find a chiropractor, a nutritional therapist, or a light therapist, or a chylation, or some speciality therapist in my 15 minutes? Not necessarily, no. I won't find a doctor, as I've told you before. Education. So your kids must go to the local school, which might be terrible. People like to send their children to all sorts of different schools according to educational intelligence, religious needs, and sometimes people want to send kids to schools that are more sports-based, that are more drama-based, that are not necessarily academic, or in other cases which are very academic. That's not going to be necessarily within 15 minutes. Culture. Yeah. Will the Bolshoi Ballet come to my 15 minutes? Because usually, you have to go to Covent Garden to see the premiere stuff. It's a joke. I know they'll say, well, seeing the Bolshoi Ballet is a once-a-year thing, and you will be able to go out your 15-minute city, twice a week. So that would incorporate cultural needs that cannot be accommodated within your 15. Yeah, but what when it's only like going out at once a week and maybe once every 2 weeks? Because these things, it's always mission creep, isn't it? He says it sounds pleasant enough. No, it doesn't. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds nonsense. It sounds unworkable. It doesn't sound necessarily, and since when did anyone want it? But in the minds of libertarian fanatics, no, you are eco-fanatics. Let's get real here. And bedroom commentators. I like the way, people on TikTok are in their bedroom. Because only people who are sitting in Sky News with $1 million worth of equipment and highly paid sound engineers, that makes truth. If it's in your bedroom, well, it can't be true. It's only true if you're sitting there in a £1,000 outfit with makeup done to the extreme and Botoxed out of your mind and 17 facelifts that you cry, tears come out of here, Cape Early. Then it's true. People in their bedroom, don't worry about them. I like the way, in the whole Nicola Bully thing, they said, these TikTokers were making, or YouTubers, made money out of the tragedy. What do mainstream media do but make money out of a series of tragedies since time immemorial? Every time there's some major earthquake or tragedy, you've got these ghoulish sky people standing in delight telling you how terrible everything is. Every time something bad happens, mainstream media get clicks because people watch whatever it is. Terrorism, natural disasters, pandemics. They made a fortune in the pandemic. Do me a favor. Ordinary people mustn't be allowed to make money. Only them. Ugh. an unprecedented assault on personal freedoms. That's what the TikTokers say, and this is absolutely correct. He's making an unprecedented attack on my intelligence through this ridiculous article. Creepy local authority bureaucrats, well, they are creepy and not very intelligent, would like to see your entire existence boiled down to the duration of a quarter of an hour, warned a furious presenter on GB News. Exactly. Like a plot from 1984, isn't everything? It's a dystopian plan. It is. It's a surveillance culture. It is. It's worse than North Korea. I don't even think they're trapped in 15-minute cities yet. And he goes on that people mention Hunger Games society. Well, he's kind of inadvertently drawing attention to all the very good literary and cultural references there are to this exact situation. You know, one irate TikToker shrieked while jumping around his room. I doubt it. I doubt he was jumping around his room. He was probably sitting having an extremely rational, well-reasoned discussion in front of a camera, not jumping around his room. You know, that's what I see the mainstream media doing, jumping around, getting excited about nonsense. He says you're going to have to apply for a permit to leave your zone. Yep, to leave your zone. He says there are lots of good reasons to interrogate the cute logic. It's cute. That's like what if we reduced to calling these schemes cute. Yeah, genocide is cute. Authoritarian fascism, it's cute. Communism, dystopian control, it's cute, people. Why would wealthy residents and their money remain in the... I don't know, I think I'll read that. I think you don't want me to read this lot. It goes on and on and on. Oh, it goes on to Jordan Peterson, who I don't trust at all. And I see Polly did something on him. She beat me to it, but I wanted to do something on him. And, oh, sorry, did he say the Great Reset is a fairy tale? Peterson quoted a tweet that featured the telltale hashtag Great Reset, referring to the World Economic Forum's post-pandemic recovery plan, widely used in the stranger corners of the internet as a byword for a shadowy global conspiracy. But it's all true. It's out there. Klaus Schwab keeps telling you. So does Noah Harari. So do they all. But they like to create this image that it's some strange, nonsensical idea. These people are so dishonest. This is what annoys me about all the mainstream media, is the sheer dishonesty. Everything's conspiracy theorists, blah, 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 blah. Lies are enormous. Yes, your lies are enormous, actually. You know, it goes on and on, this article. Please do have a look at it and comment. But on the guy's Twitter, everyone had enough. They didn't believe it at all. And... it's a habitat. Oh, it's UN habitat. Yeah, we love everything that comes from the UN. Crazy article, but I just had to do a deconstruct of it. I don't want to go into the whole thing. It's getting boring, and I don't want to give these people too much airtime for their grim lies and egregious falsities. I'm just going to say 15-minute cities are apartheid, right? Because I know a lot of people are brought up or live in areas that aren't that nice. But through their work and their job, they often get to go and work in very salubrious buildings in a city, maybe London, Bristol, Birmingham, wherever, or in very nice department stores or in very nice areas of town. And even if they do a minimum wage job, they might work at Harrods, they might work in the Cucumber in the city, they might work in a very... prestigious, wonderful, very different environment that gets them away from their home environment in a 15-minute area. It may not be very nice, all right? Or maybe they live in a horrible built-up area, but they work at a golf course. It's very important for us to be able to get away from our environment, which may not be conducive to our mental health, our spiritual growth, or our career growth, because we need to be aspirational. To lock people in 15-minute cities means you're locked in a mentality, you're locked in either a very urban area or a very rural area, and you need to experience other things, and it's often only through work that people can. But I know they're telling you here that, oh, well, you know, it's about cars, but you can still use the train or the bus or whatever to get to other areas. But you see, they're honing you in to not using anything, because everything you need is there, including your work, in that 15 minutes. So they are indoctrinating you that is where you stay. Apartheid, right? Apartheid. Because if you're not lucky enough to live in Kensington or a plush area in the Cotswolds or something like that, you are now confined and condemned, because people don't break out. You know, it's very, very important for people to work, be able to get out of that environment, to go and work somewhere which is salubrious, where they meet different people, diverse mix of people, people that are more affluent, because it widens people's horizons. This is all about closing down your horizons, keeping you small, making sure that you don't grow spiritually or in any other way. So this is not only attack on your movement, it's attack on your psyche, your aspirations, your spiritual well-being, and your emotional well-being, by limiting you to a very narrow perspective. And that's why it's insidious, it's cruel, and only people who have no soul, no common sense, and who've lost everything can think that this is a good idea. People can't honestly buy into it, believing that you can simply terraform the entire country to make sure every 15-minute zone has an adequate mix of urban, rural, trees, lakes, mountains, sea, to do all these activities, and has every amenity that they couldn't possibly know what you want in one place. Anyway, guys, if you're arguing 15-minute cities with anyone, I hope I've given you plenty of food for thought here, which I always like you to do. Please send this on to other people you want to wake up. And please remember what I've said. And please use these arguments to fight against this nonsense, because this is, like I say, I think I've said a lot here on many different levels. And quite pleased with this, apart from the fact I look rubbish. Take care, everyone.